What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year, happy 2025. Today I wanted to talk about a story that happened in the book of John. It's going to be where Jesus heals the man born blind. And this story has come up and it's been quite significant in the past couple months. But what I wanted to talk about was right before the miracle and then during the miracle. So this starts in John 8:48 through 59. And just a quick preface and just kind of a summary of that chapter. Jesus goes with his disciples to the temple in Jerusalem, and he speaks to the Pharisees and says that he is the Son of Man. He claims that he is the Son of Man. And the Pharisees didn't like that. He goes on, says in even verse 58, before Abraham was born, I am. And that's what Jesus said. He answered the Pharisees, and that's what he said. And at that point, the Pharisees attempted to stone him. Right? So I wanted to bring that up because it's important, because right after that, in chapter 9, he says how he slipped away, or this is the end of chapter 8, slipping away from the temple grounds. He left because they attempted to stone him, right? And then at the beginning of chapter 9, it says, as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? We always want to learn and understand the character of Jesus, and this is a small but huge, significant place where it shows his character. The disciples asked, who sinned, the parents or him? And neither. He goes in to say, verse 3, neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. And I wrote a few things down. I wrote, the man's purpose was to be used as a miracle. We go through things in life for a reason, right? So you can take it as this. He didn't do anything wrong in his life. He was born blind. His parents didn't do anything wrong. He was born blind. But there was still a purpose throughout his life. So if you can think about your life, right? Relationships, broken family, just things that you've gone throughout life, all of those things have a purpose for, like, Jesus has given us a purpose, and we are going to have to use those things, or he expects us to use those things to then spread his word, to spread who he is, and then just to spread the good news, right? And that goes back to, creating disciples, right? Our goal here is to spread the good news as Christians, and that's what we should do. And the best thing, I always like to talk about it with my friends, is our testimonies. They're so important. Being generous with your testimonies. Making sure that when you do talk about it, you're the only person that knows your life as much as you do, other than Jesus, right? But you can speak on so many different things that you've been through firsthand and be able to help so many other people that maybe they haven't heard it in a certain way, or they just don't have the voice to be able to speak on it because they just don't understand it, right? So us as Christians, using these things that we've been through, even though they maybe have been the worst thing in your life, but with Jesus and with this life that we're living, we have made it through that. And even if you're still struggling, there is a purpose in your suffering. There is a purpose in your blessings. So, going off of that, this man, he didn't do anything wrong. He was born blind. And throughout his whole life, he had to, just kind of make it through, right? And even if it feels like you're making it through, there is a purpose, and there's going to be an end. I don't want to say an end, but there's going to be a moment in time where the purpose in your life is going to be fulfilled, right? And the purpose really is, our life is fulfilled when we get to heaven and we hear, well done, good and faithful servant, right? So, but while we're here, making sure that us being blind, us in our broken relationships, us living through painful situations, right? Your purpose is to be able to say your testimony, to bring glory to God, to be able to be like, you know what? This was probably the worst time of my life, but God was with me. And God got me through it. And God is going to continue to use me to spread his word and to show how loving and gracious he is in our lives. So moving forward, it goes into where Jesus spits in the mud. And he says, this is verse 6. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Then he said, go, wash in the pool of Siloam. So, I don't know about you, but having somebody spit in the mud and then putting that mud in your eyes, I mean, it's Jesus, right? He didn't know that. He didn't necessarily know that Jesus was doing that for him, because later on, he was talking about, he doesn't really know this man, per se. They were talking about like he could be a prophet, and then he ends up, obviously Jesus ends up talking to him and telling him like, I am the Messiah, I am the Son of Man. But in that moment, he's just a random man putting spit, like mud, saliva on his eyes, and then telling him to go to the pool of Siloam. And just for a little bit of context, the pool of Siloam is about 0.5 miles from where Jesus decided to put the mud in his eyes. So this man is still blind. He had saliva put in his eyes. And then Jesus told him to go for a half mile to the pool of Siloam, which was also still in Jerusalem by the temple, while being so blind. So like, think about that. Like, you just had all this happen, and then you have to have the faith. And this is where faith comes in. Like, when you feel blind or you're going through something, and Jesus says to go, and you can't see the way. You can't see anything because you are physically blind, or in this case, spiritually blind. Are you going to have the faith to continue to walk? Right? Because this man, he walked. He went to the pool of Siloam, washed his eyes, and he received his sight. So if you're going through these things, whatever the case may be, and God is just telling you to go, after he put the mud in his eyes, after he gave you word, after somebody has given you a confirmation that God sent, God will use people for confirmations, and he will use them to be able to tell you if you are going the right way. Right? So this is like, to tie it in together, it's like when Jesus says go, are you going to go? Is your faith sufficient? Right? And you hear along a lot of these stories, it's like, oh, what little faith. Right? Our goal is to have an undeniable, unquestionable faith for the Lord. So to then go, wash his eyes, have his eyes washed, and then to be able to see, like, it's just such a significant story, because we can tie it so easily to our life, and you can tie it in so many different ways. I did take a couple just quick pointers, or key points of significance that I wrote down, and it's just 3. Just talking about Jesus' character in the beginning, to be able to go through Pharisees attempting to stone him, and then continuing to do a miracle in the same temple that the Pharisees were about to stone him. So if that doesn't say anything about Jesus, I don't know what to tell you. Along with many of the other stories in the Bible. Then it talks about your purpose. Your purpose, you may not know your purpose. If you do know your purpose, phenomenal. If you know your calling, phenomenal. That's great. And I'm not saying that to be like, I know it sounded a little off, but like, I mean that. This man's perfect purpose was to be used as a miracle. As it says here, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. That was his purpose. So this could even go to a question, what is your purpose? Right? It's not just a yes or no question. That's a very deep, very open-ended question, and it may take time. And that's where it's so important to read the Word, to be able to pray and just have quiet time and meditate on his Word, right? And then the third point that I put was your faith. When Jesus tells you to go, after he has put the mud on your eyes, after he has put you through a situation that you think you don't have a way out of, but he has given you a way out, and he says go, will you continue to have the faith to be able to have this purpose fulfilled in your life? So I hope this helps. I hope this kind of gives just a quick little, moment of realization. But that being said, I hope you guys have a phenomenal 2025. It's only the second day. I'm recording this on January 2nd, so it's already been a great 2025 for me. I pray the same thing for you, and I pray for a phenomenal rest of the 2025 year. So, peace.